when selecting, select the language, Portuguese or English. You can also mute the original audio in Portuguese, clicking on mute. Participants will only watch and listen during the company's presentation, after which we will open the Q&A session. If you need to help or want to ask a question, please use the Q&A icon on the bottom of your screen. Before proceeding, we'd like to inform that any statement made during this webcast related to the company's business perspectives, projections, and operation and financial goals are based on the beliefs and assumptions of Elbor's management and on information currently available to the companies. Forward-looking statements are not guarantee of the company's performance. They involve risks, uncertainties, and assumptions because they relate to future events and therefore depend on circumstances that may or may not occur. From those expressed in such forward-looking statements. Now, I will turn the floor to Mr. Henry Borstein, our CEO. Please, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, everybody. Following this, Elbor generated by the company that is being every quarter improving. We launched the 3 new that totalizing 800 million. About the sales this year, we had another event, Só Elbor Tem, in the cities of São Paulo, Mogi das Cruzes, and Curitiba, that accounted for 21% of the total sales of the period. What shows the efforts of the company in reducing its ready units and in construction. We also had the meeting to introduce Fazenda Itapetí. The first phase of the project sums a gross total VGV of 500 million and represent a new landmark. Before closing, I'd like to mention that we will continue aware of the macroeconomic and market indicators before taking any decisions relating to projects. I'd like also to thank, on behalf of Elbor, for the trust that investors have on us over the years and reaffirming the commitment with the maintenance of this business model, the generation of the shareholder values and maintenance of the company among one of the largest in this sector. Now, Franco Gerodetti and Marcelo Bonanata will present the major operational and financial results of Elbor. So going quickly for the highlights of the second quarter, our total gross sales reached 374 million in the second Q, and 25.8% account for the ready units sales, 60% in construction, and 13.6% of launches. The total VSO, we reached 10.4%. The VSO of launches, excluding those developments that had been launched previously, reached almost 17%. In the second quarter, we launched 5 developments totaling 388 million. The net operational revenue totaled 214 million, 1.7% more. Our gross margin is the same level of the last quarters, 27%, and in the second quarter, 27.3, a 2.4 increase compared to the second quarter of 21. Our net profit was 12 million reais, keeping the trend of positive results. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Marcelo Bonanata, who will share with you our operational performance. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I will talk about our land bank, total of 10.3 billions, elbow share 6.4 billion. But it's nice to highlight we have 37 projects. We have enough for 3 and 4 years, most of them in São Paulo with 64% located in the city of São Paulo. Then in the Great São Paulo, São Bernardo, Mogi das Cruzes, Campinas, Santos. So we have a good diversity, so a higher concentration in the state of São Paulo. In this screen, you see the distribution of our land bank in the city of São Paulo, with a great potential of 7.2 B and elbow share 4.1. You see that they are located in the best locations of the city, in neighborhoods like Jardim, Itaim, Moema, Chácara Santo Antônio. In a recent survey in the city of São Paulo, the 5 best addresses of the city, and among these 5, we have land in 3 of them. This shows the quality and diversity of Elbor's land bank. Here are the launches of the second quarter of 22. We totaled 388 million, elbow share 289. Of the 5 development, 2 were the opening, 3 new launches, and I'd like to highlight the Dual Life by Elbo in the neighborhood of Jardins. We launched it in 31 of July, and in one weekend, we made sold 22% of the development. It's a complex with corporate rooms and apartments with 1 room. It's in the mid and high level, but we anticipated the value, so it shows when we have a development in a good location, we do a good job. These are the highlights of the quarter, and one more event saw Elber 10, and we total 103 editions of this event. This is the highest, the biggest real estate event in Brazil. Nobody has held an event like this. 77 million reais in sales, 21% of we sold in the quarter, 124 units sold, 54% ready units, and 46% in construction, changing the profile of other editions of Soil Bertain. We did we were already connected. The next slide, we will see the sales contracted in the quarter. Elbor made 347 millions with a 15% increase compared to the 2022. In the semester's sales, we did 699 million, a drop of 11% compared to 21. But in the first semester of 2021, we made two operations. One was the sales of a complete unity. So if we subtract the value of these two operations in the semester, we will be very close, showing the velocity of sales of the company, even in a year like last year. Here we see the evolution of our VSO, 10.1%, an increase in relation to the first quarter of 2022. In this slide, we see the inventory in relation. Our total inventory is 3.3 million. Between mid, high and high, very high standard, and it was a highlight in our sales. Today, it's a very special line of this high and very high standard. So this is a very important niche. You can see how it is distributed in relation to in construction and in launching. Today, we reached 21% of our total inventory in relation to the ready units. So in 2019, we have 59%. Then we had 65 million, and we see the situation of our inventory was what was launched in 21-22, meaning that we have a very healthy inventory. So the most important is that year by year, semester a semester, day after day, we are decreasing the ready units store inventory, but with a higher concentration in what we launched in 21 and 22 with in the best way. Now I will give the floor to have our financial data. I will talk about our net operational revenue. This is a semestral comparison. The operational revenue was almost in the same level. When we look the slide, we see a drop of 16%, but I'd like to remind you that at the end of the first semester of 21, we did a sales of a commercial building in So this makes sense because this very similar volume we had in 2021. In the next slide, this is where we've been talking to you for some years, the improvement of our gross margin. It continues at the 28%, and we look quarter by quarter, we see the behavior of the margin depending on what was sold, what is being sold. So, but in general, we continue with this trend of a high. Uh, we intend that this drop in the second tree, we will continue to increase or to keep the same level. Two interesting points here. The first, so this is proved that even in these situations, it does not impact our profit margin. The second point is that what was sold in this quarter of legacy gave a superior result that is almost the same. In our next slide, we have appropriate margin, slightly drop, um, 34%, but once again, the result of what was sold in this quarter, and the units in production are still positive, and this will give a space in our gross margin, which is very important, so we can increase the profitability. In the next slide, this is our G&A. It's interesting to show the results and comment on them. We had a slight increase of 10%. We are in a low point in, but we had an increase in this moment. We reached the maximum point. Next year, we will see an, an improvement in the next periods, depending on what we have. Now, the This is the main reason for having this slight increase in indebtedness. And it's important to highlight that in the second quarter, we had a position that is necessary to our developments since the beginning of the project. So this will make it possible to continue with the project and reach what is necessary to keep the profitability of this project. Another point is, since it is a different year, we have an increase in the works funding, but with a slight increase, but again, directed for the future of the project. With our cash burn was uh, impacted by the delivery, we see a different trend in 23 and in 24. If you look to December of 22 until December of 23, the company will have the same loans in this period, almost 1.3 billion reais. And for you to have an idea, these progresses, when the projects reach their conclusion, we will have more than 600 million reais just settling it. And in 24, we will see the settlement of all this production. And obviously, this will have a very positive impact in our indebtedness and in our cash burn. It's also important to highlight this for this has been directed to the project because we have the CPAC conditions. We also had the payment for land that we acquired 1 year, 2 years ago. So these were already in our payment flow, and the beginning of works. So, and now we will open the Q&A session. So please, as I mentioned, you can go to the Q&A. The first question is from Bruno Medonça, Bradesco BBI. Thank you, Bruno, for your participation and question. He has two questions. First, how do you see the competition? Thank you for the question, Bruno. We are not participating in this land competition. The company has 3 to 4 years for this land bank are land bank in well-located neighborhoods in São Paulo, and many things in the high and very high level and differentiated products. We have different products in the market as the launching that we will launch it again. So we are out of this competition because it does not make sense. So the company are not looking for land, and land we example. The company had a repass of 1 million reais. So this year, delivery, the company will deliver 14 development. So we have many things to be sold. This is a year that will get some more financing priority for our works, for the construction, because these are long. Will be years of great, a lot of deliveries and cash burn. Marcos Antônio and delivered in May 23. Is there any commercial strategy for this? Marcos, thank you for your question. This is Marcelo. The W will We will start with a new campaign. We have already the material for TV and newspapers. So in September, in the first week of September, we'll have the entire structure. If you pass by the site, it is everything covered now, but we will open that with a neon light, and we'll be able to talk about DW again very strongly with a new meeting, including, well, it's in first hand this week. Without these elements, even without them, we have already sold 5 or 6 units. It is the result of the work of the team. It's a new moment. It's a new start. It's an asset of a high value. We open with the price for the region, and the price is very good for the region, and it's almost ready. Competition, Cidade de Matarazzo, which is another location, excellent standard with a value uh, high above, and many clients compare, and this movement of sales, even without going to the media, is being very important. It's a very special moment, and your question was very, very good. I'd like to comment this work, this development will give us the opportunity to sell it until the last year. It will have a sales speed very good. And this is a real estate development. It has a velocity of sales during the launching, some better, some worse. Then you have the moment when you start the works, and then the sales naturally drop because you don't have a decorated department, you don't have a sales team. It happens with all developments. And then comes the moment when you have the decorated in the tower, which is going to happen now. So I will be with Marcelo and the sales team with high expectations that we have to deliver next year, because it is related to our cash generation. So we have well-located products in São Paulo with a good margins and adjusted price. And this will reduce the leverage and take everything to the level it has always been. The second question of Marcos Antonio relates to Fazenda Itapetí. What is the expected margin with the VGV initially forecast of 350 million and now 500? Well, in margin, we expect something around 35%. This is a very important product in terms of lotting. The strategy is different from incorporation. You see many lottings with exchange cost of construction uh, that was very important for this match. And this is with good price for the square meter. And we have a very good expectations to launch this product. As I said, it's a differentiated product for the region. And what happened during, because of the pandemic, we saw many all allotments valued. Então, the market of lots surprised the real estate market as a whole. The prices increased, and Elber will surf this moment now because we had an increment in cost, but also in sales price. And in this allotment, the same thing. When the buyer of this product was priority of the state of São Paulo. Now we see people from around São Paulo, Guarulhos, the east area of São Paulo looking to this development. But just reminding you, Marcos, this is the first phase. We are waiting for the approval of more 714 lots. So this work, this development will bring very good news for the company. The next question is from Hugo Gracie, Citibank. Thank you for your question. Congratulations for the result. On margins and inventory management, how are you guiding the repricing of the inventory in the different segmentations of income? Do you intend to maximize margins, or do you prioritize the velocity of sales? Well, the financial area is doing this constantly. We look is enough. We also follow this line, but basically we look to all the places we we have our products. When you see the margin of our legacy, we show mathematically how we are reducing it. We are selling our legacy, so we are trying to advance in both sides, maximize the margin. We it's very important to deliver the products that are in construction next year. This will be very important for our cash generation. The point here is to have a velocity, margin, but we are focusing on the new launches. You see the margin of the new launchings, we have the margin that the company has always had. And what is legacy, especially at this moment that we have everything linked to the operations in the past, we are also focusing on this. So we are looking to all of this, the legacy, the new launches, and obviously hoping to have sales velocity. The company has a very good team, and we were able to repass this this increase in cost. We in the developments of a high level, like the one at Leopoldo Couto de Magalhães. I'd like to make a comment here. And on our strategy, at the end of the month, Henry and myself, we sit together and we see the sales velocity during the month. We open and say 2 3 days working on this, where it is not. So we two together study this. We analyze all the possibilities of development and what continues to sell, very prudent with the margin and prices. So, and the profile changed, and this detail of the commercials, we had 3 developments that we had a commercial problem, 3 hotels, Curitiba and Santos, and hotels are not selling. So how can you sell something that the person cannot use? So we revert to Curitiba and Alphaville. It is have been reverted, and Santos, we are just reverting it to residential units. So 3 developments that were on hold in the company's inventory. And now, very soon, they will regain the sales velocity and will show how we changed our profile. It's important for us. Thank you, Marcelo. In the second part of your question, Bruno, relates to our client's portfolio. He's asking what is the average LTV of the portfolio and how do you see the expectations for this client? If there is any policy to foster this, and if you can comment the default of your portfolio. Well, if you go look back some years ago, we had this strong structure. Our portfolio today is better it is a portfolio that is indexed to GPM, and part of it indexed to uh, IPCA, and we didn't have any campaigns that could client would ask for an advancement. When we see this unity with the own resources and bank finance, this is a decision between the financial department and the commercial. uh, what is the current price, how much the client paid in advance, and then we take this into consideration to make our decisions. This is what we our performance. And for default, up to now, we haven't seen a significant increase in the default. We are with the same levels that we had at the end of last year. So no red light that could call our attention. In terms of mutual rescission, the same. We had a high drop in the last year. We consider the second semester almost in the cruise velocity, and we are in on the same line this year. What we feel, and an increase of the client that pays the first installment and then gets scared with the ICC, but at the end, when you offer an intermediary discount or to alleviate a semestral installment, the that we will things by the end of the year, we are much closer to and this uh, project has the purpose of uh, helping to get the financing. If any problem appears, we will study this. The company is very focused and looking to our portfolio about this. Only another point I'd like to add. What could happen would be a change in the credit approval by the financial institutions. If we see any changes, if we were seeing any impact of it, we see just the opposite. The largest players that support us are large private banks, and they still have a great appetite for financing for the real estate credit and paying around 9%. But in terms of assessment, we saw Itaú extending their term for 420 months. So this to achieve or to reach that buyer that was out of the ceiling because of the prices, the price increase. So this is also helping us to not having an increase in mutual rescissions. We have one more question from Marcos, an individual investor. He asked about the CPAC. Marcos, this is our project is a volume and a need that was foreseen since the approval of the project, but without this on landing, the project could have been discarded. So this is still a very interesting project in terms of margin and financial results. The, the company has this very good land, and we are surfing on the success of Patio Global that changed the price of the region because it is in front of it, and this changed the level of the product today. We have bicycle tracks and very other improvements, everything in Pinheiros, but this in Marginal is the same. And as I said, the price was leveraged by Pátio Global and will help us in this new development. It's a very interesting and nice. Marcos also asked here, considering July and August, how are our numbers? Well, uh, we had the July of 20 and 20 turn to the old levels. So we August is already in the levels above the July levels. So Henry asks me, how are the sales? You know, our thermometer was always the volume of proposals, volume of commitment, and this is very good. So August is now a very strong moment, and the company will get the spring in the uh, third quarter. We have the allotment, as I said, and we need to remember that we'll have elections in the second semester and the World Cup, two events that may affect our sector. So we are focusing on making a very good third quarter. We have also the Itapechi, but we will launch in August, possibly on the 27th, our project in São Bernardo do Campo, Pátio São Bernardo. It's a project that should have been launched at the end of 21. We were delaying because, due to approvals. And it's an event for more than 200 brokers. Expectations, and now people really expecting to see this Pátio São Bernardo. And then we will have another launch in Vila Nova Conceição, and our housing works with the active offer incentive of the broker. We want to work very hard to make it. In qualitative terms, investors, the investor is no longer in this sector. With this return of the interest rates, they it will not compromise the investor that has actively participate in the developments. And the development we had at Brigadeiro, with the presence of investors, we were slightly concerned with the reaction, but it was a product of extreme success, high percentage of sales above of what we expected. We always have a very conservative curve, but massive presence of investors. So many people coming and saying, I want to diversify. I think this is a good region. And they bought, they took their money from the fixed income investment and bought the real estate. This is really surprising. And when you see a differentiated project in a differentiated location with a price that is good in Jardins, the average at 29, 30,000. So it is a very good price. And when we talk to investor, is that it changed. Today we have a very strong work that is started some years ago. People selling for long stay, in partnership with other companies, and we guarantee rent profitability that is great. So the model of the past of a lender and the today we have security for your real estate, but also the companies uh, take care of the decoration and management with a better profitability. This made it easy to bring the investor with a possibility of increase and valuation. So we have only good projects. We have another question of Marcio. What corresponds where the client continues to the portfolio only not to have this mutual rescission? Well, if you go back to 17, 18, 19, the company opt for securitizations for the portfolio. From then, we had a smaller part of the portfolio with this direct financing from another financing for products that we want to foster the sales. For instance, our office unit, we know the conditions of the banks for this commercial unities are not so good. They reach the level of 70 and the terms are not so good. So we see the intention of creating a portfolio to sell some of these products where we have our greatest challenges, but the objective is to carry for more 3-4 years and maybe then to sell it. But it's a portfolio that until now is very healthy. We have a last question about the launching of Fazenda Itapetí. Well, as we mentioned, the event was very, very good here in Mogi. The temperature is very good for it, and we'll do this in the beginning of September. So we close the call of the second quarter and we go the floor to Henry. So let's see, but we are very careful. The message is to launch only what we understand